with you, two men in black and white and honest conversation. All right, we're getting right into it. Alex Peretti was an American hero, and we must never forget that. This man was protecting a woman who was being brutalized by Border Patrol agents at the behest of Dan Bovino, Kristi Noem et al., and Donald Trump. Again, we see the mirroring personalities of ICE, Border Patrol, and Donald Trump, the big bad bullies who think they can do whatever they want. They think they can murder people and get away with it. America's not going for it. Brock and Ellis is here. We're just a couple of guys with streaming capability looking at America's decay through the black community and white community lenses. All right, Brock, Alex Peretti. Um, Man, this one hurts, if not as much, more than Renee Good because it shouldn't have happened again.
Yeah, there's so many layers to the shooting yesterday, and I can't be the
Yeah,
only white American who watched the video 100 times, right? From
in
like
horror.
every angle and you know, every edge of it. We said that for 10 months, Mark, maybe not, sure, not many people have been watching us for 10 months. For 10 months, we've been saying at some point, with all these video cameras out there, ICE is going to kill someone on video. And maybe that's
Sure,
what's going to take to really shake up what we call complacent white America. So we get
sure.
the Renee Good shooting a week ago. Like, never could I have imagined that we would get two shootings within a week on video right in front of us to watch the horror of and the injustice of both of them. I
Yep.
never could have predicted that the first two on video murders would be white people. That's as shocking as anything. I would have expected to have been a Latino family fighting off of ICE, like someone videotapes it, but two white people out there observing and out there for people of color, like the best of us in white America who were out
Right.
there. And we watching them get gunned down. And in both cases, we watched the administration go to the propaganda playbook and try to paint both of
Immediately.
them as dangers and domestic terrorists. And I think that's fallen absolutely flat. And
Mm-hmm.
certainly in
Sure.
the Alex Preddy case, as they're trying to paint him as a violent insurrectionist, you know, that had to be taken out by, our heroic ICE troops, the family of a fallen soldier puts out the video of Alex Preddy giving kind of in essence some sort of version of last rites.
Brought tears to
He
my
was a
eyes.
VA nurse, right? So he's the best of the best of us, right? He's taking care of fallen and injured and sick soldiers. And while Kristi Noem's trying to paint him, as a
As a
deranged
domestic
maniac,
terrorist.
as Trump is.
Right.
So, like, not only is the killing horrific, but I feel like this second one has really poked through, the pack of lies that MAGA immediately goes to, because I just don't feel like the country is buying it. I certainly don't feel like white America is buying this depiction of other white people as dangerous.
Right. Right. Here's what we just learned within the last 20 minutes. A U.S. District Court judge has granted a restraining order against Homeland Security, barring the department from altering or destroying evidence connected to Preddy's killing. Now, here's what's pertinent about that is the fact that with Renee Good, they're not allowing the FBI, Minnesota law enforcement, or any other law enforcement branch to investigate the shooting and killing of Renee
Now,
Good. Now they're trying
FBI
to
has
do it.
refused to investigate because that operative
Oh,
resigned
correct,
because they wouldn't let her. But they certainly didn't
correct,
allow the local police to get to the crime scene. It's almost like a little bit of a
correct.
learning curve, right? On this second one,
Right.
now like they're stepping in quickly to not allow ICE to brush it under the rug or destroy all the evidence.
Well, Brock, America has been litmus testing our, how can I say, our, you know, conscience for violence since the very beginning. I mean, we go back to Jim Crow, we can go back to, the turn of the century, we can go back to Three-Fifths of Man, we can go back to Plessy versus Ferguson. You know, we have, this country was founded on its violence, right? In our lifetimes, we've only seen it perpetrated against black and brown people. We've seen the incarceration rates of black and brown people. We've seen the inability to acquire wealth for black and brown people. We we're just now learning how this has been perpetrated historically. We've talked about how many times we never heard about the Tulsa massacre. And there are T-shirts on Amazon that you can get with all the different massacres around the United States, Tulsa, Rosewood, and all. And so the difference here is that we're seeing the worst of white America, right? Try to influence all of white America to say this is the way it should be done. And if you don't want to do it this way, well, you're going to have to pay the price too because you're with them,
Yep.
right? And so this is what makes this, heartbreaking. These are two fine human beings, as was Sandra Bland, Tyree Nichols, Laquan McDonald, George Floyd. Who are we to judge the kind of people they were? But now we're talking about a VA nurse, a man who's taking care of fallen. The video makes you want to cry when you see him reading that video, honoring fallen soldiers. Like, does it get any better than that, Brock? So I will say that that's a long way of saying Black America is watching this and saying, oh my God, if they're killing good white folk, what are they going to do to us?
Yeah, nobody's safe.
I mean, right, nobody's safe, but especially us, because they know they've already proven they can perpetrate violence on us and get away with it. It's rare that we see a Derek Chauvin convicted, both locally and federally, right? But Keith Ellison, the attorney general in Minnesota, was not going for it. We watched the man die on video, right? At one of the, and it wasn't a tipping point in America because here we are right back with the violence again.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, like that was finally accountability for a white officer, inflicting, deadly, unnecessary, deadly violence on a black person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we've seen two shootings, white on white, right? Where, DHS is trying to avoid accountability, right? They're going into lie mode. They don't want there to be justice in America or even a trial. They don't even want there to be due process, right? They don't even want, in the first case, Renee Good, not even allowing the investigation. So now,
Right.
Minneapolis as a state maybe step in on this second one to get enough evidence. Yeah, I'd say they have enough evidence just from the videos alone, but like maybe they need more to feel like they have to get a conviction. So yeah, I mean, Mark, as a white person my age, you kind of think back and you're like, really? So white people used to like have a picnic when there was a lynching of a black man, and that was like sort of a Saturday afternoon activity in America, and they had the visual of watching someone get killed. And we're getting a different version of that, right? Now with 2 in a week, it's like, wow, it's almost like expected. Who's going to get shot
Who's next?
Yeah, who's next? Because you have these, like goon squads, Gestapo's out in the street who feel like they've been told. So therefore they act as if they have this total immunity.
Zero
while they're out
accountability.
there.
Yeah.
And as soon as they kill someone, they see how quickly they're protected. So you can just hear it from the clips, right, where they say you're next, or now you're on a domestic terrorism list. Like they just feel like they have this license to go out and hunt Americans, and now it's including white people.
Yeah.
The question I have is like, how much will this rile up white America? It's riled up white
Yeah.
America in Minneapolis. There
Yeah.
have been protests and sympathy in other cities, but are these two murders enough to trigger white America? I'm curious.
Please
I'm
let it be.
hopeful. I'm hopeful. Um, and I hope it even intrigues Black America to be like, wow, those white people are out there getting themselves
Sure.
killed. They're standing in front of the bullets first. So, yeah, we think if we're out there, it's going to be more violent. But can this get, how much more violent can it get? Yes, it can get a lot more violent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's probably going to have to get a lot more violent, except unless we come out in such huge numbers that ICE feels overwhelmed. And even when Trump
Right.
calls in the army, they feel overwhelmed and/or they refuse to go to war with their own people. And I
Right.
wonder where the military's, if people in the military, where their head is when they think about being called in on the Insurrection Act. In the
Ooh.
same way that local police have to think about, where am I on this? Is ICE really a police force? Are they my ally or my enemy in my
They are
community?
not. They are not an ally of law enforcement. Because remember who they are, Brock, right? These are the worst of the worst who
Yeah,
were bailed out
yeah,
and got pardons from January 6th. They've had 47 days of training, right? And I say that in quote, 47 days for the 47th president. It's always about him, right? The guy, too soft to serve, soft and squishy Donald Trump. He's picked the worst of the worst to come out and terrorize and bully American citizens, okay? Make no mistake about it. Alex Peretti is as American as it gets, loves the outdoors, serves as a nurse at the VA, loved universally by all the people that are talking about him. The doctor, I saw a tweet from one of the doctors that he worked with, said he was the salt of the earth human being, just one of the most amazing people you ever met. And yet these scumbags from January 6th are out here brutalizing people like him, right? Killing people like him and Renee Good. Renee Good was just dropping off her kid, right, on the way home from school. Like, how much worse does it get in America? And Brock, this is this is how Black America feels. Like you're getting an inkling of the feeling of how Black America feels when we watched George Floyd die on camera, when we watched Rodney King, get beaten to a pulp by Los Angeles police officers. When Dr. King died. I remember my parents had an actual scrapbook of the newspaper clippings from the week that Dr. King died. And I used to take it in as a grade school kid. And on Dr. King's birthday, raise my hand and ask if I could do a presentation about Dr. King. But this is now what, remember, those are the feelings that brought Black people to the streets, right? What, my question is, why isn't white America running into the streets?
I
And I
mean,
know it's 10 degrees below in
it's only
Minnesota.
Minneapolis. You see that 7-year-old guy who got tear gassed. You're having all these people that are out on the streets for the first time. The fact that there was like somewhere between 10, 20,000 people out in Minneapolis on a minus 10-degree day is
You
still
gotta love it.
amazing. I mean, the next day there's
Yeah,
another shooting. So they're so riled up. They're almost riled up for all of us right now.
right,
It's not
right,
enough, but they're showing
right.
so much to the rest of white America. Like it is just extremely inspirational what the people of Minneapolis are
No
doing
doubt.
right now.
I agree.
They're pissed,
I would agree.
but from the Trump administration point of view, from the white supremacy Project 2025 Goon Squad point of view, I don't think they can get this genie back in the bottle. Once a 7-year-old guy's gone out on the streets because he's appalled at his own government, I don't think, and doesn't believe them and knows they're lying to him about what he just witnessed and he's out there in minus 10-degree weather, I don't think you ever get that guy back into the MAGA camp. I think they've really painted themselves into a worse and worse of a corner in reacting to these shootings with the Trump playbook, which is to never apologize, never say you're wrong, and just barrel forward and lie and keep lying and lying and lying. And if you lie enough, you'll convince people it's the truth. And the fact that they're stacking one shooting on top of another and coming with the same lie, right? They came the same lie a week later that they tried a week ago that didn't work. But they didn't have a new lie to go to with this guy. It's the same lie. He's a threat. He's a domestic terrorist, right? He's a terrible person. They were, self-defense, all the horse shit. So I just don't think that they can win back that 70-year-old white guy who's probably never protested in his life, but is absolutely livid that this is the country that he lives in now.
Right, and hates what he sees.
Can it work through to a mass protest in D.C.? Because I'm also seeing a shift in the mindset of people saying, well, only so much can be done if you're marching in your local city. That's not going to disrupt what's going on with the Trump government. Like, you have to go to where he is. I had an argument with someone today about whether we should protest at Mar-a-Lago or in D.C., and I argued D.C. because I'm like, I want to shut down the entire functioning of government, not just
shut down the apparatus.
Yeah, not just where Trump is at. So I think we're moving towards that. I want to see us come out of this, quote, snowstorm weekend with, not petitioned, what that guy call them? Petition parades, but some really, really disruptive action to where, like, okay, ICE isn't going to stop because we're yelling they need to stop. ICE isn't going to stop because there's a whole 20,000 people out in the streets in Minneapolis. It's going to take 20 million people.
Right.
And at least 2 million of them in D.C. Like, absolutely overwhelming the functioning of government. But Minneapolis is giving us that inspiration and showing us that you can be out there and it's scary and it's dangerous, but that it's necessary.
It is very necessary for all of us. Big time Trump MAGA suck up Tim Pool is a podcaster. I don't know if you heard of this guy, but he's pretty huge in MAGA world. Yeah, he's turning on Trump. And here's a quote that I pulled for you from him. And I don't know if you saw the video of the Army sniper who broke down the video showing where the Border Patrol agent had taken Alex Peretti's gun and started running away with it, and it discharged, and it freaked out the other Border Patrol agents. And so they shot him 11 times.
Okay, I didn't see that specific video. I've seen video of the gun being pulled and moved away because when he was dead on the ground, some people didn't know where the gun was, right? Because one of the agents had already.
But it wasn't in. Yeah, it wasn't in Peretti's hand.
Mm-hmm.
So Poole says, empty hand, then gun in hand, right? Commenting on the slowed down footage. And it appeared, he says, it appears the man may have been disarmed before being shot. Now that is in direct contradiction with Kristi Noem and, the rest of the, MAGA goons that are trying to paint Mr. Peretti as a domestic terrorist. And see, this is the same playbook that they used in the 60s against Black America. Remember, they thought Martin Luther King was, a communist threat. Malcolm X, communist threats, right? J. Edgar Hoover, right? Had them under surveillance, right? Because they felt
I don't believe they ever thought they were really a communist threat. I think that they wanted to depict them as a communist threat, just like we hear all the time,
we're doing with Peretti.
Just trying to paint a narrative. And our media is continuing to fail us. The New York Times headline was something to the like of, I wrote it down, sort of, the video footage, quote, appears to contradict the federal statement. Appears to contradict. Is that the softest way of saying you're getting fucking lies from Christy
You're right.
Nome and DHS. Like they're trying to absolutely lie about something we've all just
Do
watched here
that.
from 10 different angles. The best they could come with is appears to contradict. And it's like the language is
Disgusting.
too soft. Like, who the fuck's paying for that, by the way? Like, who still has a subscription to New York Times? Like, who's paying for that shit?
Nobody I know.
That's the story I'm gonna have read. I just watched it. That's your rundown. That's the best you
Right.
got for me on a
Right.
cold-blooded murder I just watched that it appears to contradict.
Bro.
I got it from
Bro.
50 angles. So this is a Zapruder tape. I got every angle. I saw exactly what happened. Media
Bro.
continues to be a fail. But
Media's
yeah,
a
I never buy
joke.
that whole communist, this, that, everyone's domestic terrorist. That's government propaganda trying to
Yeah.
justify, horrible actions. That's
Right.
all it is.
Check out Judas and the Black Messiah on
Yeah, yeah.
HBO, that movie.
No. Seen it.
It I mean, oh yeah. So you see, how they create these narratives and now they're doing it to white America. Bro, we got to stop this shit now, right? We can't let this go any further and I mean, when do we hit the point of no return? I already feel like we're there. The world is starting to boycott us, right? Soon we're not going to be able to get some of our favorite products and some of the favorite things that we are used to having and accustomed to having. That people are already, there's already a groundswell about people not coming here and boycotting the World Cup, which was going to be a huge financial boom, for many different cities hosting the games. So Donald Trump is impeding, like, and injecting himself into every fabric of our being, the things we enjoy, right? The places we want to go, the people that we'd like to see. You know, I saw a tweet this morning on Midas Touch. Oh, I saw it on Midas Touch, where Christy Nome said, Pam Bondi said, all right, we'll leave Minnesota she's talking to Minnesota officials, we'll leave if you give us your voter rolls,
Yeah, because they want to
right?
manipulate the election.
Manipulate the
Because
voters. Yes.
they kind of are coming to the understanding is that they really can't cancel elections because the states run the elections, so they can't like
Right,
cancel a Minnesota election. And the
right.
fact is that in a lot of cases, Republicans are giving up seats and running for other offices. Like think about South Carolina, Nancy Mace is giving up her congressional seat to run for governor. So like I guess if you
So she's
cancel the
quitting.
election, South
She's not going to be
Carolina,
governor.
like so like there's seats that'll have to be filled that'll be, but they're going to try to rig these elections and intimidate voters to the hill, and then maybe deny the results after they come in. I'm just coming to the
Right.
camp that that's more likely than the actual canceling of them because I think they just figure they have all this time to figure out how to rig them, steal them, or deny them based upon the various outcomes. Um, yeah, Mark, the other thing that really gets me, especially from the little bit of a tangent from the Alex Preddy being at the VA and giving that great eulogy or, final words to a fallen soldier, it just pissed me off so much how our military leaders have still been way too quiet. It still aggravates me about John Kelly from 8 years ago when he knew
Mm,
how much Trump
right,
didn't give a shit about the military, and Trump was even
right.
disparaging his own son, and stayed quiet. Did a couple interviews on the sly, but was never been a loud voice. You know, even though he had a front row seat to Trump's lunacy and Trump 1.0. So to me, it's like people
Right.
like that helped us get a Trump 2.0 because they didn't sound the alarm. They were either
At
too
all.
afraid
At
or
all.
too above the fray, and I just have no respect for that. And now I'm really looking for massive leadership out of ex U.S. military people, and maybe the Alex
And,
Preddy
and,
murder triggers them a little bit. Like they don't have to
and
stand neutral. You can't be neutral right now. There is no neutral
no,
lane in America.
no, no. And Brock, you think about it. These are the people that always say country over party, right? Our military guys. There is no party affiliation, but yet you won't come out and you know, deride. I mean, just punish Trump with all you know,
Yeah.
right? Share everything you know about this incompetent idiot, right? He has no business being president. He tapped into America's worst feeling and ran with it.
The fact they've
And now you won't speak out.
unleashed a white supremacy militia that is ignoring search and seizure rules and just, you know, barreling into homes without warrants now and just decided they can
For
circumvent
sure.
that, shooting
For
people
sure.
for exercising First Amendment rights just because they're videotaping them or yelling at them. Um,
Right.
Killing people now for Second Amendment rights because they happen to have a gun on them, which is legal. Even open carry, you know, is illegal in most of America. But oh, now you're getting killed for that. So okay, if you're country first, what is country to you? Supposedly,
Right.
country is the Constitution over the leadership, right? That the Constitution ties us together, and political leaders come and go. We vote them in, we vote them
Right.
out. So
Right.
where's their honor to the Constitution then when they're watching it getting trampled? But it leads me to the next thing, and I'm going to say this over and over. I think Trump gets an advantage when we sit around talking about how um, we're so afraid of the Insurrection Act or martial law, and I'll continue to say, bring it on. What is the difference
Yeah.
between the military on our streets than ICE on our streets? Okay,
Right.
just more guys with guns, you know, maybe better
Right.
trained, you would hope, you know, less Nazi, but we can't
Right.
be afraid of it. We see it. We've seen it already. You can't
Right.
tiptoe around it. Trump is going to invoke the Insurrection Act at some point. Let's just
Right.
assume it and let's start arguing with our soldiers to say, hey, yeah, come to the city and clear ICE out. Yeah, you're
Right.
going to come and support ICE or are you going to come and be a counterforce to ICE? I want to know what the
Right.
military is going to be. Is the military
Right.
really buying this bullshit that these streets are so unruly that they need to come in and quote restore order? Well, why are the streets so
Right.
unruly? Because we have these ICE forces out there armed and, you know,
Armed to the
basically
hilt.
disobeying or, you know, ignoring our Constitution. So where does our military
Right.
stand? I mean,
Right.
I want to
We need to know.
I want to know sooner rather than later.
All right. That's a good point too to end on. But give me a quick hit before we get out of here.
Okay, I'm watching a lot of documentaries these days, but this one my wife
See?
got me into. Have you seen the one on I think it got an Oscar nomination on the Alabama prison system?
What's it called? I think I have.
I don't know what it. I don't know what it's called, but holy shit! And because they did it all on cell phones, and they got cell phones in the prisons, and these guys came on tape on the cell phones to talk about how bad the conditions are in the Alabama prison system, and
Well,
and
here's the
it,
thing.
and
The
it even
Alabama.
shows a poor white guy, how in essence like underclass poor white people really being treated like people of color. I mean,
Yeah.
it showed a young white guy who got beat to death by the guards,
The
and then they beat
Alabama
to death.
solution.
Yeah, then they beat to yeah. It was on. Is it on like Paramount and then the HBO maybe, and then they beat
Yeah.
to death his cellmate, and the parents got no justice. Right, so it was a classic case of white people being treated as bad as black people. But of course, 90% of
Because
the
they're poor.
prison 90% of the prison population was black, but it happened to be a white guy that got
Yeah.
killed by the guards.
Right. And well, because he's poor, right? Poor folks are often treated like minorities, right? Because of the way our society is set up. Alabama prisons are, if not the worst, one of the top offenders in the American penal system. The feds were supposed to take it over. I don't know if that has happened.
That's a big part of the story of the documentary is the inmates want the feds to take it over.
Yes.
Because there'd be in there maybe pre-Trump or maybe even then it can't be worse than just Alabama. You know the
Right.
way Alabama treats, but it really gets into the psychology of how politicians are always playing to the fears of white
Yep.
America, and you have to build
Yep.
more prisons, and the fact that we don't give a shit how they're treated because they deserve it
Right.
because they did something
Because
wrong,
they're
which is the
prisoners.
same
Yep.
language is being used on Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Like they deserve it. They didn't comply. Right? If Renee Good had just complied, she wouldn't have been
Right.
shot 3 times in the face.
Right.
Right? That whole idea, if they played by quote these rules and therefore it doesn't matter how they're treated because
Yeah.
you know they're they didn't play by quote our rules. And I hope we come out of this carnage and the brink of loss of democracy in America with an absolutely different national consciousness both about race and also about immigration, that we come out of this with like that somebody finally expresses a pro-immigration stance and get us back to what we were talking about 9 months ago, Mark, where America truly embraces that it's a multicultural, multiracial society, and that becomes something that's expected and valued, not always played against. Border security, prisons, crime, like constant themes that dominate the national discourse. To think, Mark, that in like Westchester County, New York, in the last election, that crime was the #1 topic of that election, won by Mike
We slept.
Waller.
We slept with our doors open
The safest, like it's
in
one
the
of the safest
70s and
places in
80s.
America, but all it takes is like one incident somewhere to tap into white fear of the others, and then that overwhelms everything else. The best economy coming out of COVID than the entire world, but like crime and the fact you
Right.
have people in Iowa running around voting on the border, as it like
I
what fuck the border? What the fuck does the border have to do with your life in any way, shape, or form? But they're convinced of that.
right. But Brock,
And
you know,
and just to finish the thought, and so it's
yeah.
documentaries like this when I see what a white guy like me gets to see the underbelly of the prison system and how the politicians play white America like a fiddle to be
Yeah.
racist, right? To encourage you to be racist because they play into your fear. They're like, oh, you're
Yeah.
not being racist. You're just being like, safe. You're just keeping your family safe. So you could like step away from the worst of you and pretend like you're playing to the best of you. And
Hmm.
that's what I feel
You're
like I'm
doing what's
watching through
right.
America.
You're
So
doing
sorry,
what's
I'll hand
right.
you the microphone back. I'm done with my little
Yeah.
speech there. I'll get off my soapbox.
No, but I would encourage you, if you were interested and, somewhat upset at what you saw, watch the documentary that was an Oscar nominated um, uh, piece of art that was done by Ava DuVernay,
No, I
13.
watched it 13 because you told me to. I watched
Yep.
13. That was my first deep dive in the prison system. This Alabama one threw on top of it. This one's a little different because so much of the footage is from the prison
It's
itself
from the
in
prison.
like
Yeah.
phones that have gotten snuck in. And those inmates basically risk their lives for it. Basically, they're like, we're going to get killed once this comes out,
Right.
but fuck it. We got to get the word out.
It's that bad. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew like
It's that bad.
the one guy was in solitary for 6 months already, so he's kind of like basically a what the fuck.
What the fuck?
I
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
tell you
Fuck
how
it.
bad this is. So yeah, I've been watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, you walking down this path of learning about it, and then it gets me to thinking about how politicians play it all the
It's
time.
frightening.
And those 7 fucking Democrats just 3 days ago who voted for the ICE funding. Why? Because they didn't want to be painted as not on the side of quote law enforcement and when it
Right.
and stopping crime when it comes to their election 10 months from now. So like this
But
cycle.
this is not law enforcement.
Yeah, I
This
know.
is not
And
law
the fact that they
enforcement.
couldn't make that argument,
It's a joke.
but even so, that they wanted to fall back on that so easy, but they see that as such a vulnerability that they had to do something that's so out of step with the morality of America. But for their own
Yeah.
fucking self-interest, they felt like they had to vote a different way. They look like fucking idiots now. Those 7, they should all be primaried. but they look like the biggest idiots in American politics. Worse than the MAGA guys, who we know what they're doing. They're just lying and going
Right.
along. But those seven, such pussies that they voted
Yeah.
along with it, and they look like idiots 48 hours later when another white guy gets shot on the streets. All should be
Right.
primaried. All should be gone. That's what they're killing the
Absolutely.
left. That mentality and that lack of courage, killing the left.
Yeah, no doubt.
Take the floor. What do you
Um,
got for me?
So Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is going to court Monday. He's going to argue that there is no need for this continued surge. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. The city of Minneapolis also filing a declaration in hopes a judge will issue a temporary restraining order to get DHS to pause their operation. And then the good news coming out of this, there's a donut shop not too far from where Alex Peretti was shot. They opened up for business today as a community welcoming center, not to sell donuts, but just to have the community come, probably warm up, right? Um, and to connect with each other. There are a lot of churches in Minneapolis doing the same thing, trying to provide a safe space for immigrants, their families, and those people who might be sought by ICE. And that's how we get to what you were just talking about, which I am leery of happening, is, a reckoning on race post Donald Trump, because that's what it's going to take to rid America of this, this scourge that is racism, right? It's costing. I don't know if I sent you the article. Citibank actually had one of their executives do a deep dive on what racism has cost this country. Brock, it was like billions of dollars in like 20 years. I'm not talking about historically. I'm talking about over the last 20 years. And we're hurting ourselves more than we're helping ourselves by trying to create a whites only power structure and you know excellence structure. It's Brock. It's always amazing to me that you look on TV, you see Jack Buck, and then you see Jack Buck's son. You see Chris Collinsworth, and then you see Chris Collinsworth's son. You see Gary Kubiak and his two sons were the offensive coordinators of last week's playoff game with Seattle versus San Francisco. Like how much brilliance comes in one family, and you can't hire a black head coach in NCAA, right? You can't hire a black coordinator in NCAA football, right? And here you got two in one family, right? Like with limited experience. I looked at the bios. I happen to know the Kubiak family because when we lived in Denver, our son played Little League football with the older boy, Clay. Then they're a great family. But I'm just saying,
They
how
ain't the only
many
guys that know how
times?
to structure an offense, right? They're the only two guys in
Exactly.
America that know how to structure an offense.
Exactly. Eric Bieniemy got no credit with the
Yeah,
Kansas City Chiefs, right? Can't buy himself a job
yeah.
in the NFL as a head coach, right? Mike Tomlin had a winning record every year, and it led to his demise
Yeah, 20
because
years.
he was never in a position to get a good draft pick
Oh,
because
he
he
would
always did
never
well
do that.
enough.
Look, he won
Yeah,
championships though, but he won
yeah.
championships. I
But
mean,
nobody talks about his Super Bowl victory. No one talks about it, right? Because it's what have you done for me lately, right? And with that pile of bums that he got to the playoffs this year with a 44-year-old quarterback,
yeah, this is.
he gets no credit for that. I don't know, bro. We need the
You
reckoning on
do
race
know. You do
to
know.
happen.
The anecdote is somewhat obvious. It's just question is when America is going to come around to it. But when you're talking
To
about
it, right?
economic impact of racism, and in the billions. It's going to hit in the
Yeah.
trillions during this Trump era because all this social
Oh, yeah.
unrest and all these boycotts and all these tariffs and all these other countries that don't want to do business with us, like all these
Right.
farmers that don't have a market anymore. Like the impact, the economic
Right.
impact is going to be huge as well. I'm focused on the social impact; they're intertwined,
Yep.
right? But the economic impact is going to be huge because think of the fight we're going to have to unseat Trump. Like that's just we've just skirmished in
Right.
Minneapolis, right? This is going to be like have to be like a national civil war in order to get him out. It's going to cripple our economy
Right.
to get there. We're going to have to do it,
Right.
but it's going to cripple our economy on the way because when we're not going to be productive when we're out just trying to save our rights and our our way of life.
Right. Yeah. Brock, I misspoke. It was racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion
Yeah, it's gonna.
this
Yeah,
century.
we're gonna.
This
Trump's gonna get us into the trillions. Jesus Christ, he's just
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
steal. He's gonna steal $1 trillion from us, right? He already stole 150 billion or so from
then
us.
he just
He's
filed-
just gonna steal it, and
another
just
lawsuit.
corruption alone is gonna cost us that.
We just saw him file another lawsuit against Jamie Dimon. You know,
Yeah.
that's all about him settling and taking instead of
Trying to
$5
take the
billion,
money,
give me
yeah, and then
2.5.
laughing at him like
Yeah.
they did with CBS.
Yeah. Shit. All right, bro. All good.
All right,
good
Mark.
stuff.
So they're telling
Pray
me
for the
16
country.
inches. 16 inches is the prediction for this storm. That's what
Sounds
not
like
the
lots of
prediction.
documentaries, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna have plenty of TV to watch, and I'm not even shoveling till tomorrow. We gotta let this thing run its course. So
I
yeah, we
hear
all
you,
get to
bro.
sit around, watch clips, and watch some documentaries. Maybe watch something that's not in your
Yeah.
comfort zone and learn something today.
No doubt. No
All right,
doubt.
Mark. Good stuff.
All right, good brother. Talk to you soon.
All right, always a pleasure.